Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today is Friday, March 23rd, 2018, and we are 956 days away from the 2020 presidential election. Now, I know that's a long time away, but we have less than a year to go to midterm elections, and they are pretty much showing polls that are probably going to be somewhat accurate representations of what we might see come 2020. Of course, today we have the incumbent president, Donald Trump, and then the most popular senator in the United States, the state of Vermont's Bernie Sanders. So we're going to start off the video a little bit different. We're going to start by filling in all the safe red states. I don't think I've done that in a while. Pretty much all of Nebraska would be safe except for that second congressional district, obviously. Texas, Missouri, Indiana, states that could become competitive in 2020, but I don't necessarily think they will be, with Trump's approval rating on the rise to around maybe 42%, which is not the best thing, but it's still an improvement. Republicans are up in generic ballot polling where they were down by double digits not even a week ago, and now they're down by 6%, which is considerable for them. Um, so we're gonna start by filling in all the safe states like usual. Utah, I would still see that one as safe for Donald Trump. But yeah, so let's start off with talking about the Rust Belt. So the Rust Belt is definitely going to be a key factor in this election. Bernie Sanders definitely had more of a Rust Belt appeal than Hillary Clinton did, although he didn't win the Democratic nomination. He did do surprisingly well in those primaries. Pennsylvania, not so much, but states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota, he did pretty well in. Um, with him at 182 electoral votes, where can he expand his lead? Well, first of all, he would probably hold on to the state of Minnesota. I mean, most Democratic candidates in 2020 would hold on to the state of Minnesota. Going over to the state of Wisconsin, however, definitely has a Democratic identity based on what we've seen since Bill Clinton being elected. The state of Wisconsin only went red for Donald Trump, and it's probably not going to go red again if the candidate is as strong as Bernie Sanders. I could easily see them going for Bernie Sanders. I mean, his message on the economic view about everyone should be equal, I mean, that would definitely resonate with a number of these voters. Now, Donald Trump definitely was good at bringing out the white working class against someone who could be perceived as who doesn't care about the middle class, but Donald Trump being a businessman does not always outweigh the same way that Barack Obama won over Mitt Romney. I mean, even with Paul Ryan coming from the state of Wisconsin, we saw the margin in 2012 considerable for the Democrat. Wisconsin will probably go back to their Democratic identity. I mean, the Rust Belt is a lot like the state of Indiana in 2008. It is possible for it to stay with the opposing party that usually doesn't win, but it's not. It's probably not going to happen. Going over to Michigan, I mean that one's pretty much a lost cause for the president at this point. A number of states there. I mean, a number of special elections, what we've seen, are all in the Democrats' favor, and his approval rating is lowest in Michigan than all three of the Rust Belt states. That he won by less than 1%, or less than 2%, my bad, in each one of these. Going over to Pennsylvania, I definitely see that one going to Bernie Sanders. I mean, he can definitely appeal to them a lot more than Hillary Clinton could, and Donald Trump isn't solidifying his base. If anything, he's losing his base. But now we're at 238 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders to 163 for Donald Trump. Now, we're not going to call states like Arizona and Georgia for Bernie Sanders. There is a possibility that they could go to the Democrats, but they would definitely need someone who could bring out minority voters. And Sanders may be able to bring out minority voters in key swing states. It probably won't be enough to flip states like Georgia and Arizona, which have a solid red identity from past election years. Over to the state of Virginia, that one's becoming increasingly more Democratic. Don't see a possibility for a Trump win there. In New Mexico, probably safe blue. Up in New Hampshire, I see that one easily going for Bernie Sanders after his primary performance in 2016. Definitely going to him. Up in Maine, I don't see Trump winning that one electoral vote with Sanders coming from the Northeast and bringing back those voters. He did very well here in the primary, and I think a lot of those disavowed Democrats that voted for Trump because they didn't get the nominee they wanted would come back. And we're at 264 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders. You pretty much have a good idea that he's going to win this election. 190 for Donald Trump. Um, Sanders will probably carry Nevada and Colorado. I mean, it's equally as possible. And Colorado and Nevada are very somewhat Democratic states. Not very, but Colorado more than Nevada. But I still see that one going for Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders definitely has a good Midwestern appeal, which is why I think that he'll win Nebraska's 2nd district. But looking at the map, 280 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders to 190 for Donald Trump. Here's the state that I'm going to flip. I'm going to flip the state of Florida, and I'm going to give that one to Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders would probably do well in Florida after what we saw with the whole gun control fiasco and everything with the new wave of immigrant voters. It's probably going to go to Bernie Sanders. So Donald Trump has 190 electoral votes, 309 for Bernie Sanders. Now, the states that he could possibly flip, Iowa, Ohio, and North Carolina, he's probably not going to flip all of them. If anything, I don't think he'll carry the state of Ohio. I mean, you'd need extended African American turnout to overcome a number of those voters. And I don't think Bernie Sanders can really bring back. I think he'll make the margin down to less than 3%, but I still think Trump would hold out in the state of Ohio. There are definitely scenarios where Sanders could sweep Ohio, and that's possible. But the state of Ohio is probably going to stay with Donald Trump at this point in the election. At this point, going into the 2020 election. Now, two states left, Iowa and North Carolina. North Carolina would probably flip before the state of Iowa. I mean, the Iowa is more red than Ohio was, and again, although Sanders can really appeal to Midwestern voters, not seeing the same energy that we saw for Donald Trump out of the state of Iowa for Bernie Sanders. Now, we go down to the state of North Carolina, however, a lot of things are now in the Democrats' favor. I mean, Democrats are more favorable here. I mean, Trump's approval rating maybe is actually lower in the state of North Carolina than it is in a few of the Rust Belt states. I mean, I can just see North Carolina flipping just as easily as you could see a state like Pennsylvania or Michigan coming back, because North Carolina definitely has a very much swing state identity that typically leans red. It's very possible that Sanders carries the state of North Carolina. They may be conservative, but when Democrats have extended turnout, again, it may not be enough to flip states like Ohio and Iowa, but it's definitely possible to flip states like North Carolina and Florida. So this is pretty much my final electoral math. 324 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders, 214 for Donald Trump. I'll have my Joe Biden video out tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.